Urgent, immersive. Let's put you in the middle of a slaughter. Dust choking the air, the deafening clash of steel, and a single king cornered by the largest military machine on the continent. This is Haldigati, a claustrophobic, unforgiving bottleneck of rock and yellow dirt in Rajasthan, where the Mewari forces chose to make their stand. On one side, you have a small, exhausted force of Rajput defenders. Crushing in around them is a seemingly endless swarm of Mughal infantry, heavy cavalry, and armored war elephants. Mewari scouts looked out at a vanguard that outnumbered them nearly 4-1. This was the front line of a collision between a small, independent kingdom and the expansion of an empire. The cruelest edge of the Mughal line was its leadership. Leading the imperial charge was a fellow Rajput, Man Singh, and riding with the empire was Pratap's own brother, Jagmal. The Mughal command didn't rely on numbers alone. They deployed deliberate, chaotic deception. They sent their own soldiers into the fray disguised as Mewari fighters. Take a look at this display. Mughal infiltrators wore traditional Rajput armor, like this Jarrah Bakhtar, perfectly blending into the defending ranks to trigger lethal waves of friendly fire. This forced Pratap into an agonizing corner. His entire identity was built on a Rajput code that demanded honest, direct combat and forbade retreating. To stay meant absolute slaughter. The empire understood exactly how to break him. They took his greatest virtue, his uncompromising honor, and turned it into the very thing that was about to get him killed. This map shows how the Mughal commanders closed the net with a precise three-pronged trap to assassinate Pratap. Balol Khan and Qazi Khan collapsed the flanks, while Man Singh drew Pratap's fury toward the center. Enter Jalaman, a loyal commander who quickly realized that winning the field was impossible, and the king's physical survival was the only metric of success left. He forced a drastic tactical audible. Jalaman physically stripped the royal insignia, the distinct umbrella, and the crown straight off of Pratap. Wearing the markers of the Maharana, Jalaman launched a suicidal charge into the enemy lines, drawing the entire Mughal swarm toward himself. They hacked him to pieces. But the men who died under Jalaman's command knew exactly what they were doing. They were trading their lives to buy their king a few precious seconds to escape. While the dirt at Haldigati ran red, a second, quieter invasion was happening miles away in the peaceful capital of Udaipur. Enemy agents slipped into the city, planting a paralyzing rumor. The army had been wiped out, and Maharana Pratap was dead. The empire expected the city to crumble, triggering the ritual of Johar, where royal women would walk into a massive fire to avoid capture. Instead, the women and children rejected the fire. Led by the queen, they gathered boiling oil, heavy rocks, and weapons to defend the fort themselves. Mughal commanders found that Mewari independence had shifted from a military duty into a civilian identity, turning ordinary homes into fortresses the empire hadn't planned for. Back in the gorge, bleeding heavily from multiple wounds, Pratap was forced to do the unthinkable. He broke his ancient code, turned his back on the enemy, and fled. His survival rested entirely on a blue-eyed warhorse named Chetak, wearing a highly unusual piece of armor, a fabricated elephant trunk strapped across his face. The mask functioned as an optical illusion to exploit the instincts of the empire's war elephants. To an elephant's eyes, the horse resembled a calf, triggering a moment of hesitation that prevented a lethal charge. In an asymmetrical fight for survival, standard military conventions get thrown out. Every asset has to be weaponized, right down to the shape of a horse's head. Two Mughal assassins broke away from the main battle, relentlessly chasing down the bleeding king and his critically injured horse across the jagged terrain. Their escape route ended at a massive gorge. With a severed leg and fading strength, Chetak hurled himself across the chasm, safely depositing Pratap on the other side before collapsing and dying. Watching this pursuit from the ridgeline was Pratap's other brother, Shakti Singh. He was a veteran of the imperial army, tasked with helping to bring the Maharana down. As Shakti Singh watched a dying horse hurl itself over a canyon to save a man he was hunting, the reality of his betrayal collided with the sight of absolute loyalty. He drew his blade, executed the Mughal assassins, and offered his own horse to the brother he had just helped corner. In that moment, the animal's sacrifice achieved what years of diplomacy could not. It broke Shakti Singh's ties to the empire, forcing a defector to reconnect with the cause he had abandoned. By the end of the day, the imperial army planted their flags. They controlled the rocks, the pass, and the physical dirt of Haldigati. But tactically, the imperial campaign ultimately failed. Thanks to Jalaman's decoy, the defiance of the home front, and the leap of a warhorse, their primary objective, eliminating Pratap, slipped through their fingers. Pratap completely vanished into the deep jungles. From there, he waged a relentless guerrilla war that lasted decades, systematically reclaiming nearly his entire kingdom, fort by single fort. The bloodshed in that narrow pass tells a very specific story. Massive imperial might can easily conquer a physical location, but an idea simply cannot be killed as long as an entire community is willing to die to protect it.